I just recorded for 2.5 minutes and then was like, oh, it can't hear me. Because for some reason, my computer will automatically mute my mic sometimes, which is so rude. So rude. It's like telling me to shut up. I guess my computer's a man. Anyway, let's start over. Even though this is the beginning for you guys. What's up, ladies? Welcome to the health class she deserves. I am your host, Dawn Pam, and today I'm coming at you with a solo episode. We are talking about everything I've learned from the beautiful year of 25, because today's my birthday. Not the day I'm recording it. I'm recording this a few days early, but the day that this comes out, Tuesday, October 7th, that is my 26th birthday. And a lot of things have happened in 25, and it was a big period of growth. I think it was a big period of like laying the groundwork for a lot of shit, and I'm ready to like truly shed skins and blow up and just up level in the year of 26. So I'm really excited. It's really funny because I remember last year's birthday, I was not super excited. I didn't like 25. I was like, 25? Quarter life crisis? God damn. I literally was like, I'm going to keep telling people I'm 24. I did not want to be 25. I really didn't feel like I was where I wanted to be. A lot of my kind of like life plans have changed multiple times. And not that it was like bad things, it was just evolving situations. And I couldn't keep up. And I really just felt like I was not where I wanted to be. I'm obviously still at the cafe on the weekends for some extra cash. And I was really frustrated that I still had to do that. I hadn't launched this podcast yet. There's just a lot that I wasn't feeling great about. And so 25 really ended up being a year of like true transformation and growth. And so basically, and then physical health, obviously, like you guys know if you've been listening, but I'll go into all of that. I also, there's no freaking sound. It's just me silently showing off my sweatshirt in the beginning of this. But I'm sorry if you're listening, but I have this new like Red October Phillies sweatshirt and it's so cute. It's got like a ghost on it. It's freaking adorable. So I was just showing that off as my little birthday present to myself. I also got a bunch of new books yesterday. So get myself lots of birthday presents this year. So I guess let's just dive into it. I'm going to start with my physical health, I think, because there were big advancements there, obviously, with the endometriosis diagnosis. If you've been here, you know that my periods have been painful since day one. Like since I was 13 when I got my first started cycling, always been painful, problematic, full of symptoms. The pain being the worst and most life disrupting symptom. If you haven't been here, you don't know that. I have quite a few episodes where I talk about that, in particular the endometriosis crash out one from a few months ago, or just a month or two ago, I guess, is very goes deep into kind of my history and getting the diagnosis. And I have a mental breakdown in that episode as well. Yeah, so if you don't know, periods have always been painful. I've always been struggling with that. And as I've gotten older, I've started to pick up on these ovulation symptoms and just all of these things that were really disrupting my life. And I went back and forth so many times thinking, do I have endometriosis? Do I not have endometriosis? When I finally got the surgery, I was really freaking out beforehand. I thought they weren't going to find anything. I thought I was going to be back at square one. Like, what do I do? Because I knew my experience wasn't normal and I was done being gaslit. I was done gaslighting myself, but still I was like, if they don't find anything with this surgery, like what do I do? What are my next steps? And so I was really scared with that. And so one of the number one things I learned this year is self-advocacy. As a woman dealing with chronic health issues or any health issues at all, we have to advocate for ourselves. We have to do the research on our own conditions. We have to do the research on our symptoms and figure out what might be wrong. We have to do all of the legwork, all of the heavy lifting we educate our doctors about our problems. Like it's exhausting, and it shouldn't be that way, and it's not fair. But that is the way that it is. And so a lot of self-advocacy lessons this year of like, don't take no for an answer. I'm done taking no for an answer. If something's seriously wrong and you just want to keep writing me prescriptions for naproxen or birth control, I'm over it. I don't want to do that shit. I want actual answers. And so I went and I got actual answers. I had surgery, and I have never had major surgery before. The only other like surgery I've had that involved anesthesia was oral surgery for my wisdom teeth. Pretty run of the mill. I did get a dry socket, so it fucking sucked. It was painful. But this was like the first major surgery I've really ever had. And so I was freaking out, obviously, because surgery is scary, but mostly because I was really, really scared that they weren't going to find anything. And I think one of the big lessons I've learned from that just entire experience is like, it matters. I'm so glad that they did find something. I'm very grateful for that, especially because mine seems like hard to find. Like if it had not been a qualified surgeon in there, I don't think they would have seen it. Like I looked at the pictures, I was like, that doesn't look. Endometriosis isn't always like a big chocolate cyst, it's not obvious a lot of the times. And mine was not obvious. So I'm so grateful for that, for my surgeon, the whole team that was there. But it also was really important for me to learn, like, okay, if they don't, before the surgery, if they don't find anything, and now after the surgery, if they hadn't found anything, I still would have had to continue to advocate to get a diagnosis for something, because I knew that what I was going through was not normal. There was something wrong. And so I was pretty certain it was endometriosis, but if it hadn't been, it would have been very easy to just be like, well, fuck it. Fuck my life. Fuck me. I'm done. I just have to deal with it, I guess. It would have been so easy to fall into that like trap. But what I did learn from that experience was like, at the end of the day, no matter what they found, self-advocacy is a necessary tool for a woman to have in her toolbox, especially at the doctor's office when it comes to medical situations, because no one's going to care and listen to you as well as you care and listen to your body. And I do have self-advocacy tips that are on TikTok. I've talked about on the podcast plenty of times, and maybe I'll do like a whole other episode about that, just kind of laying through some tips. But that is a very important thing that I've learned, and that I'm still practicing. It's not something that like you just gain overnight. It's very difficult to be the difficult patient. I just had an amazing interview that I did this morning that'll be coming out in a few weeks. Incredible interview. And we were saying like, be the difficult patient, be the difficult woman, because we are so trained not to be, that really all that it means is that we're neglecting ourselves. When we're labeled as difficult, we're doing something right. I'm going to tell you that right now. If you're being labeled as a difficult woman, you are doing something right. I digress. The other thing when it comes to physical health that I think this is so important too. So like, please listen up for this one. 25 was a big transformation for me in letting go of the perfectionism in a lot of areas of my life, with work and all of that as well, but in particular with my health. When I first started down this whole like cycle syncing journey, I was masculinizing it. I was taking it so seriously. I was doing it wrong, basically. And I don't like to say like there's any way that you could like do it wrong, but I will say the one way that you can do it wrong is by taking it so seriously and shaming yourself and putting everything in these rigid boxes. Living a cyclical lifestyle is supposed to free you from that. And I have since grown into that. When I first started back, I was like 20 probably when I first started really getting into this stuff. I was being so rigid about it. And every piece of like health advice that I heard, I really took to heart. And I was freaking myself out about all the endocrine disruptors and all this and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it's actually quite a scary world we live in. And if you dive deep into the data and shit, It's like, it is scary, but here's the reality of the situation. These are systemic issues. If we don't get laws banning these chemicals, there's really only so much you can do to not be exposed to them because they're fucking everywhere. They're everywhere. And that's not meant to scare you. It's actually meant to free you. Stop thinking about it, okay? Because I was so obsessed with everything. And look, there are certain things that like are important to me that I've made the switch around. So when it comes to like fragrance, I don't buy personal care products with fragrance in them anymore because one, I've noticed that I myself am quite sensitive to that. And two, it's like one of the it's one of the reasons that things are like considered endocrine disruptors. Like all of the ingredients might be fine. And then there might be like literally like 3 perfectly natural, wonderful ingredients like in your lotion or whatever. And then fragrance at the end, perfume maybe. Under that label, there can hide so many different chemicals and some of them might be fine and safe and some of them not so much. And at least here in the United States, the laws are not strict enough for me to feel comfortable purchasing something with quote fragrance in it. And so that's one of the switches that I've made, just like with lotion, shampoo, conditioner. It's a little annoying sometimes trying to find things, but it doesn't drive me nuts. And I don't think about it too hard. But when it comes to like just these other little things that I don't have the capacity to care about, I've really started to learn like where my limit is between sanity and ideology. That's an amazing thing that I learned from Nicole Lang. That interview should be coming out next week, the week after this comes out. And we talk a lot about this whole thing of sanity over ideology. And so make sure you listen to that episode when it comes out. But basically just like not going insane on this path to perfection, because here's the thing, perfection's not real. It doesn't exist. And microplastics are everywhere. Endocrine disruptors are everywhere. There's glyphosate in all our food. Like there's really only so much you can do. And guess what? Organic berries, like a tiny little pint of organic strawberries is like $10 fucking dollars. Abso-fucking-lutely not. It's not happening. I wish I could get everything organic. That is so not plausible for me right now. That's crazy. And it's not plausible for a lot of people. And so it's things like that where I just had to learn to let go a little bit, to stop freaking out over the little shit, because these are issues that there's only so much I can do to avoid them, right? And ultimately, like your genetic profile, when it comes to like epigenetic changes and stuff, like you can turn certain genes on and off based on your lifestyle choices and the environment that you live in and your emotional state and all that. That's how epigenetic works. That's how generational trauma works. And it's a very crude definition of it, but it's essentially like a light switch turning certain genes on and off. And so just because you have the gene for something doesn't mean it's going to be activated in your lifetime. So you have the gene for breast cancer doesn't mean you're going to get breast cancer. It just means your risk is a little higher and that the lifestyle choices you make could potentially turn that gene on or off. And so if you're eating a burger for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, drinking 6 cans of Coke a day and smoking a pack of cigarettes every day, like you might turn that gene on. But that's a very extreme thing, So it's that 90% over the 10%. Like you have to freak yourself out because you've drank a lot of alcohol in college. Like, bitch, we all did. It's that like 90% of the time, if you're not drinking alcohol and 10% of the time you decide to let loose and have a drink, the 90% is going to win out. Okay. And I think that we've created a culture in the health space that causes you to freak out over every little thing. And who does that benefit? I'll give you a moment. It benefits the people trying to sell you something. They freak you out over a tiny little problem and then they say, here's how to fix it. Give me $100. And look, I'm not saying that everyone is like a quack and doesn't know what they're talking about. Like there are people trying to sell you things that actually there is a problem and what they're trying to sell you is useful. And so if you deem that it's something that's important to you, something that you want to dedicate your hard-earned dollars toward, fantastic. That's great. But if all of a sudden you feel like shame and fear and you're freaking out over something and you're feeling this impulse to buy it because you're scared of something or you're ashamed of something, that's not something that's aligned. And so this is like a line I've had to draw of like, does it Do I feel scared, and do I feel anxious, and do I feel ashamed? And or any of those types of emotions? Is this like low vibration, coming from a low vibration place? No, thank you, not for me. I'm being manipulated right now. They're manipulating the emotional centers in your brain. They're manipulating your limbic system so that you buy something. On the other hand, if it's something that like I've been thinking about, I've done my research on, it's something that I really think could be useful in helping me manage my endometriosis, balance my hormones, have a healthier gut, whatever it might be, I've done my due diligence, and it's something that feels like aligned for me to care about. Okay, great. Then I will care about it, and I'll see what's out there, what who could potentially help me, who I could potentially purchase products or services from, after vetting them as well and making sure, that they know what they're talking about. So that has really been it's really been a turning point for me in terms of like anxiety of what I'm freaking out over. I grew so much in 2020 at the age of 25, my year of 25. I grew so much in that sense of not being so freaked out about my health. And you would think that getting the endo diagnosis would make me freak out more, but it's actually given me such a more specific, like now I'm like, okay, I know exactly what's happening now. Well, I say exactly, we have like such limited research. We don't know exactly how endo works, what anything. We don't know anything. However, I do know what it is, and I know the general like gist of what's going on in my pelvis right now. Where the endo is, I can discern the feelings better in my body of like, did I not sleep well last night and so I'm a little groggy today? Or like, am I having crazy endo fatigue right now and I really need to like address that? I've gotten better at like discerning all those things. Having a diagnosis has helped me hone in on what is going to move the needle. Because before, when I first started doing the health stuff and the cycle syncing stuff, it was like, I need to balance my hormones. Like I have so many PMS symptoms. I need to balance my hormones. I have so much pain. I need to balance my hormones. And guess what? When I started doing those things, I did see improvements. And for these symptoms that were linked to hormone imbalance, like for me, I used to have really bad mood swings. And that was also adolescence, like high school as well. But even like in college, there were certain months where it was just like my mood was just unpredictable right before my period. And that was a big hormone imbalance thing. Some of the bloating. So I know like endobelly is a big thing. And bloating is linked very tightly to endometriosis. But for me, I do think that there was a big hormone imbalance part of it that was making it so much worse. Because once I did balance my hormone, or like once I did start doing the cycle syncing stuff and got like the Elix traditional Chinese medicine supplements, like personalized for me and all of that kind of stuff that, started regulating my nervous system, all that. Bloating is one of the things that definitely improved. And I do still experience it from the endo. Sometimes at certain points in my cycle, like my late luteal phase specifically, but it used to be like much more uncomfortable. It used to be after everything I ate. Whereas now I just kind of, it's not as, it's just not as bad as it used to be. It's not as symptomatic as it used to be. And so I know that was linked to this hormone imbalance. And what else? Headaches. Oh my God. I get headaches from the estrogen drop before my period some months. And that's when I know I've had a pretty bad hormone imbalance, because that doesn't typically happen anymore when I'm like on top of shit. Like when I've had a healthy month, I've been making good lifestyle choices. I've been living a life generally for hormone balance. I don't typically get those headaches anymore. However, every now and then I do, and I can tell when, okay, like I think I had some pretty imbalanced hormones this month because I'm getting these headaches. And I don't think that one's necessarily linked to endo. I do think that was particularly an estrogen issue, which is also intimately linked to endo. But my point is, I was able to make these lifestyle modifications to mitigate or even eradicate some of these symptoms. And so those are the things I know were linked specifically to an imbalance in hormones, whereas other endo symptoms, so like I did all of that, and then my pain was persisting. Some months was even worse. They felt like it was getting worse over time. And I was like, how is this even possible? And that honestly was a big clue and catalyst into me being like, okay, maybe I really do need to get surgery, because if I'm doing all of this and I'm seeing all these improvements and all of these other symptoms, and then the pain's going up, 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 that is an indicator that something's growing and making the pain worse, such as endometriosis, as opposed to just hormone imbalance. And so when I learned that, I was like, that was a big catalyst into me really pushing then for the surgery, getting the diagnosis. And so that's just another thing that I learned, just how to listen to my body better, how to understand my symptoms better, and then how to approach them properly and not freak out about every little thing. Because it used to be in the past, and most of in the age of 25, when I first turned 25, God, I remember I had my period. I was on like day 2 of my period, and I remember the kids were here. If you don't know, my boyfriend has kids, and they were on their fall break, and so they were here, and I was at a next level of exhaustion. We went to this like fun little, on my birthday, on the day of my birthday, we went to this like fun little like farm, like a typical fall activity. They had little activities for the kids. It was fun. I was literally like falling asleep this day. I was so beyond exhausted and uncomfortable. And again, this was before my diagnosis. And this was a time in my life when I would freak out about every little thing. I'd be like, nope, can't eat that. It's got a lot of sugar in it. I'm on my period. It's going to make everything worse. Can't eat that. It's got dairy in it. It's going to make everything worse. Can't drink that. It's got caffeine. It's going to make everything worse. Can't have a hard cider, even just one, because I know I'm getting my period soon. And that'll make everything so much worse. And then any symptom, any pain that felt worse than usual, which I would just assume, like, I would just analyze, I would hyperanalyze my my lifestyle choices up until that point for that month and be like, fuck, like, where'd I go wrong? And I would always hyper focus on my luteal phase, especially, and be like, oh my God, I had a beer 7 days before my period started. That must be why I feel like this. For some reason, completely forgetting that I've always felt like that on my period before I ever had a drink in my entire life. I think the first drink I had, I was like 16 or 17. So that's a solid 3 to 4 years of having my period and having it be literally the most horrific, painful thing ever. It's not alcohol's fault. Not saying, I mean, look, the less alcohol you drink, the healthier you are. That's just a fact. We know that. There's really no safe amount of alcohol. So maybe that's a poor example. However, it's still not the alcohol. Like, alcohol didn't cause my endometriosis. And yeah, it's inflammatory and it can lend to the inflammation of the disease now that, like, I'm an adult. But but me freaking out over those tiny little lifestyle choices when I wasn't drinking every day. Like, the 90%, I was making good, healthy lifestyle choices. Had that 10% of ate something I wouldn't normally eat, drank something I wouldn't normally drink, and had fun and don't regret it until the first day of my period. And then I would be free. I'd be like, oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done this. Whatever. And look, there are certain things that can make it worse. And I do still have to be careful with my diet. I'm not saying I completely was like, fuck it. Throw caution to the wind. I'm doing whatever the fuck I want. But getting the diagnosis really allowed me to hone in and be like, okay, I know that these symptoms specifically are endometriosis. They're not a hormone imbalance. Me having a high noon on day 26 of my cycle didn't cause me to feel all of these things. It was going to happen either way. And if I had a high noon every single day of my cycle, probably would make shit a lot worse. But knowing myself and knowing that I really don't drink that much and making that conscious decision is not in any way it isn't putting me in more or less pain to make that choice, you know? And so it really helps me hone in on like the limited data we do have also. And so that's why I ended up doing the gluten-free. And that has been helping a lot because gluten is linked to a lot of inflammation. It's inflammatory. There's a lot of research coming out now, and for everybody who's like, human beings have been eating gluten like forever, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, but the way that we've processed wheat, and from my understanding, and look, don't take this word as like law, because this is what I've learned from the nutritionist and chiropractor that I've worked for a few years. And I fully trust them and their data, which is why I'm saying this now. However, I myself have not like looked into this. And so that like, I never like to really fully endorse anything that I myself have not looked at the data on. However, what I learned from them is that the way that we've processed wheat and the modern day gluten chains that we are consuming are not the same as what our ancestors evolved to consume. And therefore, like, they're much more difficult for our gut to break down, essentially, was like the gist of what I heard. Whether or not that's true, we do still know that gluten is linked to inflammation, inflammatory responses for certain people, not just people with celiac or an intolerance, but I guess technically people with an intolerance then. But a lot of people might have an intolerance and don't even realize it. Like, gluten is so permeating in our culture. And once you go gluten-free, you realize how fucking hard it is. And it's fucking expensive too. So anyway, that was a tough dietary decision. But again, I'm not freaking myself out over it. And it was a very specific, and guess what? Doing that and realizing that that helped and that actually did move the needle allowed me to be much less psychoanalyzing type A oldest daughter freak that I usually am with all of these other lifestyle choices. I was like, okay, I really don't have that much processed food. I really don't eat processed food like often at all. Very, very rarely. I don't have things with a lot of sugar in them. I'm not really like a sugary drink type gal. But if I'm craving one, especially with not drinking alcohol that often, sometimes I literally just drink alcohol because I'm like, I want a fun drink and everybody else has a fun drink. And I don't drink a lot of like the sugary stuff, like lemonades and sodas is not really my thing. Then I was like, could they be though? Like, if I want a fun drink and I don't want to have alcohol, just get a fucking fun drink, even if it has like a lot of sugar in it. I don't do it all the time, so it doesn't matter. I hope my point is coming across here. Maybe I've been talking about this for way too long. But really my point is like, I just stopped taking everything so seriously. I do think that is the ultimate thing that I learned in 2025 was like, stop taking shit so fucking seriously. I want to move on from physical health now to more mental health aspects. So one of the biggest, well, actually, okay, let's talk about the not taking things so seriously thing first. When it comes to this podcast, I really had to take that one to heart. Like, stop taking yourself so seriously. Launching this podcast was fucking scary. The idea came about around the time I turned 25, honestly. And so this really is like a full year of like having this baby. And we launched in February. And so I learned so much through that. And especially posting things on social media, changing my personal social media account to be a little bit more like influencer-esque. It's like, I use TikTok more for that type of stuff, but I do, just to keep my Instagram active, I do like post some of the things over there as reels, and then the podcast account. And I promote the podcast account a lot on my personal Instagram. And I lost a solid amount of followers. Not that I had like a crazy amount to begin with, like 700 some. Every time I would post something, I would lose followers. And I was like, good, like, we're clearing out the people who don't want to hear this shit, and I could call in the people who do. If you're watching and I like look so slightly different right now, it's because I just took like a couple hour break because my friend came over with her little baby. And so of course I had to go hang out with the baby. So I was going to jump right back into it. I was talking about not taking life so seriously. I was saying like I lost followers, and I was like, good, like, clear out the space for the people who don't want this type of content. Like, I get it. It was mostly just randos pro high school and stuff. And so I was like, good, we're getting that out of the way. So that was just a big lesson I learned of just not taking everything so seriously. And then when I started my TikTok account, which I only started back in like, June, July, really not that long ago, I started that And that one was kind of nice because it was like I didn't have, I literally didn't have any TikTok account at all before that. So it was like, I didn't have any like previous following on there, like people I really knew. So it was like a little more freeing, I feel like. That was the first thing when it came to like the mental health side of things. And then on top of that, one, somatic practices, because before, like, I'm a very in my head type of person. And I feel like we hear a lot about nervous system regulation and like somatic practices and stuff online. But it's like, why? What's the point? Why do we do that? You are storing emotion in your body and it shows up in certain ways. And I've definitely noticed as I've, you know, been a little bit better about getting physical and physically releasing emotion. I have noticed changes in the way endometriosis is present in my body as well. And symptoms I have from that. And so there really is something to be said for like nervous system regulation and somatic practices. And so that's another wonderful thing that I've implemented for mental health and that I've learned this past year of just really grounding in my body. Like with any emotion, whether it's an emotion that like I'm uncomfortable, like anxiety or grief or whatever, just like sitting in that and grounding in my body, and also joy and gratitude and all of that, like really just staying, not intellectualizing it, not hyperanalyzing it, and doing my typical like logical overthinking stuff, but just like being present. And one of the most amazing things, I know I've talked about her before, Haley Hoffman Smith, and I'm definitely going to talk about EFT tapping next, but something that she says, Haley Hoffman Smith, that she does is pause, what a pleasure. And just kind of throughout your day, you're just like, pause, what a pleasure. Like whenever I think of it, or whenever I'm feeling like just like stuck in a rush, just being like, pause, ground yourself in the moment, and be grateful for something. Like, pause, what a pleasure. The sky looks beautiful right now. Pause, what a pleasure. It's like a gorgeous temperature outside. Pause, what a pleasure. I'm so glad that I have a Wi-Fi connection to record this right now. Just like that kind of stuff, to just really stay present and grounded in the moment. I also feel like I want you guys to know, in case you're watching this, I feel like I look orange right now. And I swear in real life, I'm looking in the mirror and looking back. So like in real life, I don't look orange, but I really look orange in this camera at the moment. So EFT tapping. This is one of the most major things that I changed in my life in 2025 and what I've like learned from it. So if you don't know what that is, it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It is a blend of like neuroscience and like traditional Chinese medicine, I believe, because it has to do with like the acupressure points. So there's different like types of EFT tapping. There's like full EFT, which is the different points are, so like the first one's like the side of your hands, like they call it the karate chop point. And then you've got like above your eye, like right in the front of your eyebrows, the side of your eyes, underneath your eyes, underneath your nose, under your lip, like above your, like in your chin, your collarbone, under your arms, at the top of your head. And that's like full EFT. There's also this version called faster EFT tapping that's supposed to take like the most effective points specifically for shifting energy, like overcoming limiting beliefs. And so basically the whole idea behind this, when I say like neuroscience and TCM, is like using these acupressure points to rewire the brain, basically. And I know it sounds like a little cuckoo, but it is backed by neuroscience. These particular points are really useful in helping us shift energy, shift emotion, and rewire the brain in real time. So the way that Haley Hoffman Smith does it is, and I'll link her book in the show notes. It's called You Have the Magic, and I highly recommend it. And it's basically, so it's faster EFT. So instead of all of those points, it's literally just front of the eye, side of the eye, under the eye, collarbone, and then you squeeze your wrist. And she's very serious about the pattern interrupts. And so basically, like, you get into this emotion. You journal first, ideally, and try to figure out like a limiting belief, where it came from, a childhood memory that perhaps caused you to believe a certain thing that's like not serving you anymore, and then to release it, you really like focus in on that. You focus on the memory, you focus on the feeling, ground it in your body. Where is it in your body? And you really focus on that and magnify it as much as you can. And then you do the tapping, and you can say what you say doesn't really like matter that much. Like I'll do guided sessions through her membership and I love them, but you really can just do it by yourself too. Like you literally could just repeat over and over, like, I am safe, I'm safe. Or like, it's safe to let this go. It's safe to believe something different. And you go through the points, like maybe 30, 45 seconds on each point. Squeeze your wrist, take a deep breath, and then you do a pattern interrupt, which like, you get up and dance around, do some jumping jacks, do like a quick like visualization of like the best case scenario, future self, something like that. And this has truly, like this whole process and doing the sessions with her through her membership have seriously transformed the way I look at things. It really helps me get into a mindset of like not if but when. So like with the podcast specifically, like not if it blows up and like, gets popular, when it blows up, when it gets popular, when I get thousands of downloads per month and can make this into my full-time job. Like not if, but when. It's really helped me shift that energy. Whereas like if you had asked me last year to say that, like I would have hesitated. I wouldn't have wanted to say it out loud because I'd be like, oh, but what if it doesn't? It'd be like embarrassing if I had said it out loud and then it doesn't happen. Now it's like, first of all, it doesn't matter if it's embarrassing. Second of all, it's not going to be embarrassing because it's going to happen. It's undeniable. It's written into my future. I have a desire for it, therefore it's meant to be. And that's kind of just where I'm at now through EFT tapping, which has been so transformative for me in keeping my eye on the prize, I guess. Keeping a healthy mindset about things and really just like staying on top of stuff. So it's been easier to stay consistent with EFT tapping. It's seriously like the number one thing that I would recommend. Like if you're looking for actionable shit to get away from this episode, I would say start with that. And the way that she does it is so fun. So read Haley Hoffman Smith's book, and start tapping. Honestly, let me get my journal. Okay. Also for like a lot of the mental stuff, I'm almost finished with this one. I'm gonna need a new one. It says Buzzworthy. It's a little bumblebee. It's so freaking cute. It's like this, for those listening, it's like this kind of mustardy yellow journal. And it's got this little gold, like shiny bumblebee on it, and it says Buzzworthy underneath it. It's so cute. So I just want to I want to dive back in here to like, so I really started using this, this year. God, I just flipped back so many pages and it's only in July. Like this book I really started using recently. So it should be all from pretty much the age of 25. So this was another like, something that I learned, some of my limiting beliefs that I really was able to unpack with this EFT stuff. And I really think that this will be like more the juice of the episode when it comes to the mental health things and just kind of like what I have achieved through all of this work I've been doing, and why I really feel like 26 is going to be like a crazy transformative year. It's because I've been laying so much groundwork, so much, and I'm going to be very vulnerable with you guys and share some of it. So one of the big things I realized, like through the journaling that I did through this and the EFT tapping, is I have such, how do I say this without sounding pretentious? I can't, is what I've decided. I have such an intelligence complex. I really do. I'm the oldest daughter. I have never struggled with school. I know, like, ooh, Autumn, you've never struggled with school. I was always so academically minded. I was good at studying. Most things came fairly easy to me. I just always had a very great academic presence. And as you may know, those types of people, like the Rory Gilmore effect, they burn out real quick in life. By the time they're supposed to enter the workforce, they're like, fuck everything. Why did I do all that? Why'd I do all that? I'm so burnt out. I felt like I wasted so many years of my life learning pointless bullshit. Not all of it, obviously. You learn a lot of really great things in school and important, necessary things. And I loved college. Literally loved college. I went and got a degree in neuroscience, which is kind of like, I originally was planning on going to get a PhD, but then just decided I really didn't want to be in the school system anymore. I wanted something new. But truly suffering from that burnout, like 17 years of just nonstop schooling, it was exhausting. It was exhausting. And I had a lot of good times, but I was crashing out by the by the end of it. Um, and so one of these these limiting beliefs or like fears that I have is like I have a bachelor's degree. I have a bachelor's degree in neuroscience, which in such a highly like specialized field, like a bachelor's degree is very, very basic. I'm proud of it, but it's not like it doesn't qualify me necessarily to like do much with it. You know what I mean? And I don't have any letters after my name. Like just academics has always been like a really big part of who I am. And when I broke away from it and was like, okay, I need a break from this, it was like a big identity shift. And then also not like having a really specific, like clear path for what to do with the degree and just not having, I'm a first gen college student, like just really didn't have the same guidance, I guess, that a lot of people do get from family members and stuff. I just didn't really know, like I didn't know my way around the higher education system. And so I have this really big fear of people thinking I'm not intelligent enough, I'm not qualified enough. It's just basically just major imposter syndrome around my cognitive abilities specifically, which is so crazy because they're above average. Sounds so pretentious, but like, have you guys turned on the news these days? It's really not hard to be above average. Read a book. There you go. You're above average. And so that's something I really I had to like work hard. That was really holding me back. It was stopping me from doing things. I was like, I need to like hyper fixate on all this. I have to make sure that everything I'm saying is exactly true and as nuanced as it can possibly be before I like post it anywhere. And it's like it needs to be true. I'm not contributing to the spread of misinformation, but at the same time, like, chill, you're being a little crazy about it. Just constantly chasing this like perfectionism. And that was really holding me back. Another one around money specifically, I grew up Catholic, as you know, if you've listened to this podcast before, I reference that a lot because it's so relevant in my adult life. And I also think about like media I was consuming as a child. And so in those really transformative years, like what did I learn about money? I learned that it was like greedy. First of all, that you're going to hell. Like basically the Bible was like the rich people go to hell. That you're supposed to give everything that you have away, basically. And just that like wealth makes you a bad person. That's essentially what I learned as a kid. And then I was thinking about like, okay, for example, The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. Bear with me here. London Tipton and The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. If for some reason you've never seen it, she is essentially this like very rich, very privileged character whose dad owns the hotel they all live in, and she's stupid. She's just dumb as rocks. That's her whole like character. She's just frivolous and superficial and whatever. And then there's Maddie, the other character who's like poor and works at the hotel, but she's really smart, super book smart. And so, and that's like a common kind of theme that we see, at least in those TV shows like early 2000s, that we kind of see with women specifically, of like the dumb rich girl who of course like likes girly things, and so of course she's stupid because we just equate those things together. And then you've got like the book smart like Maddie and Sweet Life of Zack and Cody or Rory Gilmore, just like not like other girls type like bullshit. And we see that at least from like early 2000s. I hope it's changing with new kids shows and stuff, but like with all that early 2000s bullshit, like that was just a common theme that you would see. Not only does it pit women against each other, but it also makes you like associate girly stuff that you like with like being frivolous and stupid. And so then of course you don't want to be like that. And so it ties in so deeply with money for me, this intelligence complex of like not wanting to be viewed as stupid. I went through like a deep not like other girls type bullshit situation. As I think like a lot of us have. Especially with my personality type, like I am, and being the oldest daughter, I am a lot like my dad. And so I really, really like fostered and nurtured these masculine traits growing up because they got results. They got people to like me. They got respect from the adults in my life because we've all been indoctrinated with the same bullshit. And so now, like I said, I really hope it's changing. I hope that that's different. It really is like I still continue to work on this and to tap on this limiting belief of like, not only is having money like greedy, like all those things I learned in church, but also all these things I learned through the culture of having, if you're a woman who has a lot of money, you're stupid. If you're a woman who has a lot of money, it's not because you worked hard. It's because someone gave it to you or because you slept your way to the top. But you can't be intelligent and have a lot of money as a woman at the same time. And that was like this thing that I just internalized. And so these are the types of things that come up with the tapping that you're like, and once you like clear them and get them out of the way, like this is all just basic neuroscience of it's what your brain's paying attention to. Like that's essentially what manifestation is. I mean, yeah, like if you're changing your frequency, if you're releasing these limiting beliefs, you're having like a higher frequency, like the people who really just have a good energy around you in life, you notice it, right? You notice this really like great energy and things just kind of seem to come to them. And it's because it's like what they're attracting. But also like ultimately when it comes to manifestation, biggest part of it is what you focus on expands. And so you'll hear a lot of people like on TikTok and stuff, if you're like in this sphere, talking about the reticular activating system, which like sounds all fancy and confusing. Basically, all you need to know, your brain has a filter. You are receiving like around 11 million bits of information in any given second, any given moment. Do you know how many you consciously process? Like how many your brain actually deems important enough for you to notice? 40. It is significantly less than 1% that you're picking up on at any given moment. So there's so much subliminal processing going on. So you literally could have like so much money like right in front of you, or so much happiness or so much peace or so much success, whatever you're chasing, it could literally all be laid out right in front of you. But because of your circumstances growing up and because of what you learned and because of what you have trained your brain over the years to deem important, all you're noticing is what you told your brain was important. And your brain loves to prove itself right. At the end of the day, that's all you need to know. Your brain loves to prove itself right. So you need to make sure that your brain believes what you want it to believe so that when it's proving itself right, it's giving you good stuff in the process, if that makes sense. So you could have literally everything you want like right in front of you all the time. But if your brain is like, if it's one of those 11 million bits of information that your brain doesn't deem important enough to process, you're not going to. All you're ever going to see is the hardships because you believe that it has to be difficult, or the sadness and the horribleness going on in the world. And of course, there's a lot of bad things going on in the world in any given moment. But if that's all you're noticing, that's all you're focusing on, you're never going to see where it's good. You're never going to see where change is happening. You're never going to see where there's pushback. You're never going to have any hope. And it sounds so cheesy to be like, oh, if you don't have hope, like all is lost. But it's so true. Because if you truly believe that just like everything is going to shit and there's absolutely nothing that's going to change it and we're all fucking doomed. I know it's really hard not to feel that some days, but if that is all you focus on, that's all you believe, that's all the content that you consume is that rhetoric, it doesn't matter what actually happens in reality because your reality that you've created is going to believe that. And your brain's only going to see evidence to that effect. Because like I said, your brain loves to prove itself right. Like if you could honest to God convince yourself that the sky's green, you would probably see it as green. I'm not quite sure like how you would actually convince your subconscious mind that that's true because, you know, you've been looking at the sky since you were a little baby child. But still, that's just how powerful it is. Like, you will see what you believe you'll see. So make sure you believe something good. And so that's also why like visualization can be so powerful, and journaling, like best case scenario journaling, like journaling in the present tense of like, I have this, I just went on this incredible vacation and it was amazing. And you're making it all up and it feels like make believe, but you're training your brain to create that reality, to look for that shit, to look for opportunities to make that happen. And so when people are like, oh, manifestation's so silly, it's like, No, it's not. It's truly science. It's straight up science. And the most qualified neuroscientists will tell you that. You can call it manifestation, you can call it whatever the fuck you want, but it is the truth. You are creating your reality constantly. Every single choice you make, every single thing that you believe is creating your reality. And if you don't like your reality, there's something going on in your brain that you have the power to change. And now, I, of course, want to give a caveat here. Like, people are born into different circumstances. People have different privileges. I am fully aware of how privileged I am, that I even have access to this information and that I'm able to pay for the membership to do all this tapping and stuff. And also, there's a lot of really, really horrible, truly inhumane things going on in the world right now that you can't just think your way out of, you know? You can't just positive think your way out of it. And I don't want it to seem like that's what I'm saying. But ultimately, at the root of it, your reality is what you create. And that is why people can go through such horrible, horrific, terrible situations and come out of it stronger, while other people can go through the same horrible, terrible, horrific, ridiculously inhumane situations and end up like way worse with extreme mental health issues or hurting other, like hurt people type situation. But again, others can go through the same exact thing and they can come out of it stronger. They can come out of it with such a deeper gratitude and appreciation for life and for their relationships. And the only difference between two people who went through the same thing, the only difference there is their perspective. It's what their brain believes, because it's just that powerful. And so if you're taking, I think I already said this, but if you're taking anything away from this podcast, here's another thing to add. Do the tapping, the journaling, really start to like uncover, like, where did I learn this? Why do I think this? What do I truly believe about money? Do I believe I deserve it? Do I believe that I deserve success? Do I believe that I'm qualified to do, like, it's been such a big thing for me to be like, I'm hosting a podcast. And of course, I don't know if you've been here since the beginning, I launched it with Lexi originally, and now it's just me. And it's like, I'm doing this by myself. Can I handle that? Am I qualified to do that? Who wants to listen to me? Like, these are just a bunch of things that I really deeply have journaled on and worked through and continue to work through. So only you can decide what your truth is. Another thing I've really had to release this year, I've like my mantra, honestly, for the age of 25, this was my mantra. I surrender the how and focus on the now. Because I get so caught up in like, well, this is what I want and this is when I want it. And so like, if I can, convince my brain and like manifest that reality in that timeline, it's not actually possible. Like, that's what I say to myself. I'm like, well, how is that even possible? Like, I can't expect it to happen that fast. I'm so caught up in the how of how it would happen that I completely lose the magic of the moment, right? So I surrender the how. It doesn't matter how or when. That's not mine to worry about. All I need to worry about is what and what choices can I make in my daily life to bring me closer to that what. How can I continue to like stay in the energy of having that what, and the how will figure itself out. The universe, source, God, creator will take care of that part of it. And that kind of brings me to something that I'll continue to work on in 26, is this rushing. I'm a very impatient person. If you know me, it's not a secret. I've never been a patient person. I like the most efficient route. When people are doing things in a way that I don't think is the most efficient, it grinds my gears. I like efficiency. Like, Sammy, I like efficiency. And it gets me in trouble sometimes though, because I rush. Like, I'm constantly rushing. I want this done and this done and this done. There's not enough hours in the day, and oh my God. And that's also why in this past year of 25, launching this podcast, starting a business, starting a brand, managing not just the podcast, but the social media accounts and the YouTube and the Substack newsletter, all of this stuff, like, it is a lot for sure. And I constantly feel like there's not enough hours in the day. And so I really have to take a step back. And like I've talked about in other episodes, using my rhythm, my natural rhythm, my inner knowing, my cycle as a guide. Planning things by the month, not the day, not the week. And obviously I can wake up, have like a general like rough plan for the day. I can time block things, but that only works for me super well in the follicular, like leading up to ovulation. When I'm time blocking on those days, it's like perfection. But if I try to time block in my luteal phase, I'm like, no, I need to just let it flow. I need to go for a nice long walk in the middle of the day because I just feel like I need one. And so that's what I'm going to do. Throw off all my time blocking, and it's just pointless, and that'll stress me out. So planning my months as a whole, and then taking like the day by day, week by week, whatever, but always having this month overarching theme of like setting my intentions for the month, discerning what energies are present in my life for that month, using the moon cycle especially to discern those energies, what sign the moon is in, has really been helpful when it comes to journaling, whether or not you're like into astrology or whatever. Like it's really useful when you're like, I don't know, I have too much going on, I can't think straight. How do I plan my month? To start, for me to like start feeling the energy, looking, setting intentions, figuring out like what I should be focusing on. I look at what phase the new moon is in, or what sign the new moon's in, what sign the full moon's in for the coming months. And I will do this according with my cycle. And it helps a lot. So then when menstruation comes around and I don't feel like doing anything and my brain's not working and I'm in pain, I can just chill because I've prepared for it. You know what I mean? Not planning interviews on days I know I'm going to get my period. Things like that. Like that has really helped a lot for me to like come into the flow. However, I still rush. I still constantly feel like there's not enough hours in the day. And so that is something I continue to work on for 26. Some of my big goals for 26, like I said, growth. Like I've laid so much groundwork. I really want to grow. It's the, God, what is that like parable, or it's called a parable? It's like that, the Chinese bamboo tree thing of, it takes like years under the ground to like sprout up, like of just those beginning stages take such a long time, like takes years for a tiny little sprout to get above ground. But once it gets above ground and starts getting the sunlight and oxygen, all that, it shoots up, and like within a year is like 10 feet tall or something. I don't remember the exact numbers, but that's the idea of it, is the Chinese bamboo tree. And I heard that on a podcast before and I was like, oh my God, I love that. So growth, absolutely a big goal for 26. I want to grow this podcast. I want to keep getting more information out there. I want to grow my social media accounts, the Substack, all of it. I want to keep sharing all this amazing information with you guys, all these incredible people, the interviews I'm doing, the things that I'm learning, the books that I'm reading, and things I'm learning from them. I have big visions for 26. And so I'm excited. And I'm excited to have you guys along with me. Thank you so much for listening, for hanging out with me. And I hope that some of the things, I hope this makes sense, because I kind of went into this of like, okay, I'm going to like plan out like bullet points of what I'm going to say. And then I was just kind of like, no, I'm not. Because I just am going to go with the flow. So I hope this made sense. Thank you guys so much for being here. Please reach out. I love connecting with you. I love hearing your suggestions, your feedback. You can reach out on literally any of the social media platforms. Those are all linked below. If you could rate and review, that helps me out so much with that growth goal. It helps the algorithms see that people are enjoying, and that my podcast is worth promoting on their like playlists and shit. I love you guys. Thanks for being here. Happy birthday to me. I hope you got something out of today's episode. And we'll be back to regularly scheduled programming next week, with another interview on Tuesday. Class dismissed.